Have you ever wondered if the traditional December 25th date for Jesus' birth is accurate? What if there's compelling biblical and historical evidence pointing to an entirely different month? For centuries, December 25th has been celebrated as the day Christ was born. But did you know this date wasn't established until centuries after Jesus' life? Neither the Gospels nor early Christian writers specify the exact date of his birth. However, by piecing together clues from the Bible, historical records, and even astronomy, we can narrow it down to a more likely time frame. In this video, we'll explore 7 pieces of evidence, including the role of shepherds, the Roman Census, astrological events, Jewish festivals, and more. By the end, you might just rethink everything you thought you knew about the Nativity. Let's start with the first clue: the shepherds in the fields. The Gospel of Luke provides a fascinating clue when it mentions that shepherds were in the fields watching over their flocks at night. This detail carries more weight than it seems at first glance. In Judea, shepherds typically allowed their sheep to graze in open fields from spring through early autumn, when the weather was warm and conducive to outdoor activities. During this time, the lambing season also took place, requiring shepherds to stay with their flocks at night for protection and care. However, by late autumn, as temperatures dropped and rain became frequent, the shepherds would bring their flocks into shelters, ending their time in the fields. December, the traditional date for celebrating Jesus' birth, is marked by cold nights in Bethlehem, with temperatures often dipping to near freezing. Such conditions make it highly unlikely for shepherds to be out at night with their sheep. Instead, the timing described in Luke suggests that Jesus may have been born during a warmer season, likely in spring or early fall. This small but significant detail pushes us to rethink the traditional narrative. Luke's Gospel also tells us that Joseph and Mary traveled to Bethlehem for a census ordered by Caesar Augustus. This census is a key historical marker that helps narrow down the timing of Jesus' birth. Roman censuses were massive undertakings, requiring people to register in their ancestral towns. These events were typically scheduled during the most practical times of the year, to avoid disrupting agriculture or causing undue hardship. Traveling to Bethlehem in December would have been especially difficult. Winter rains would have made roads muddy and dangerous, and temperatures would have been uncomfortable for long journeys, particularly for Mary, who was heavily pregnant. In contrast, warmer months, such as late summer or early autumn, were much more suitable for such extensive travel. Some historians also suggest that Roman censuses were often linked to harvest seasons, as this was when people had surplus resources to pay taxes. These practical considerations point away from a winter census and support the idea that Jesus' birth occurred in a more temperate season. By examining the logistics of Roman governance, we find yet another clue challenging the traditional December date. The Star of Bethlehem, as described in the Gospel of Matthew, is one of the most iconic elements of the Nativity story. It's said to have guided the Magi to the birthplace of Jesus. While the exact nature of this celestial phenomenon is debated, modern astronomy offers intriguing possibilities. One prominent theory is that the Star of Bethlehem was a rare conjunction of the planets Jupiter and Saturn. This conjunction occurred in 7 BCE in the constellation of Pisces, a zodiac sign associated with Israel in ancient astrology. To the Magi, who were likely skilled astrologers from Persia or Babylon, this alignment would have been interpreted as a significant event, potentially marking the birth of a great king. Other possibilities include a comet or a supernova. Chinese astronomical records mention a bright object in the sky around 5 BCE, which some scholars link to the Star of Bethlehem. Regardless of its exact nature, these events occurred during months like March, April, or September, aligning with other evidence that Jesus' birth likely happened in a season other than winter. The Jewish calendar and its festivals provide additional context for the timing of Jesus' birth. One particularly compelling theory ties the Nativity to the Feast of Tabernacles, or Sukkot. This festival occurs in the fall, usually in September or October, and celebrates God dwelling among his people. The symbolism of Sukkot aligns beautifully with the Christian belief in Jesus as Emmanuel, meaning God with us. During this festival, Jewish families would build temporary shelters and spend time outdoors in celebration. This could explain why there was no room at the inn for Mary and Joseph. Bethlehem might have been crowded with pilgrims celebrating Sukkot. Additionally, Some scholars link John the Baptist's conception, described in the Gospel of Luke, to the Jewish priestly schedule. If John was conceived in late June, based on his father Zechariah's priestly duties, Jesus' birth 6 months later would place it in September or October, further reinforcing the connection to the Feast of Tabernacles. Historical writings outside of the Bible add another layer to this investigation. Early Christian scholars debated the timing of Jesus' birth long before December 25th became the standard date. Clement of Alexandria, writing in the late 2nd century, mentioned various proposed dates for Jesus' birth, including April 20th and May 20th. Hippolytus of Rome, a 3rd century theologian, calculated March 25th as the date of Jesus' conception, implying a December birth. However, this was based more on theological symbolism than historical evidence. Another early source, the Proto-Evangelium of James, suggests a timeline tied to Jewish traditions rather than Roman or Greco-Christian calendars. Some of these sources favor spring or autumn as the time of Jesus' birth, aligning with agricultural and festival cycles. The establishment of December 25th as the official date came later, during the 4th century, when the Roman Church sought to Christianize existing pagan festivals, such as the celebration of the winter solstice. These extra-biblical sources show that the December date was far from universally accepted in early Christianity. Bethlehem, a small town with a rich history, offers additional clues about the timing of Jesus' birth. Situated about 6 miles south of Jerusalem, Bethlehem experiences a Mediterranean climate, with cold, wet winters and warm, dry summers. Winter conditions in Bethlehem would have made outdoor activities difficult. The idea of Mary and Joseph traveling during this time, let alone shepherds tending flocks in the fields, seems improbable. Spring or autumn, with their milder temperatures, would have been far more accommodating for the events described in the Nativity story. Moreover, Bethlehem's proximity to Jerusalem makes it likely that Mary and Joseph's journey coincided with a major event like a census or a Jewish festival, both of which would draw large crowds. These logistical and climatic factors make a late spring or early fall birth far more plausible than a winter one. Modern scholars offer a wide range of perspectives on the month of Jesus' birth, but few endorse December as the likely time. Many point to spring, citing the lambing season and the role of shepherds in the Nativity story. Others favor autumn, tying Jesus' birth to the Feast of Tabernacles in the Jewish priestly calendar. Astronomical evidence, including the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, further supports these theories. Historical climatology and logistical considerations, such as travel and the Roman Census, also weigh against a winter birth. Even early Christian writers proposed dates ranging from March to November, showing that the December tradition was a later development. While there is no definitive answer, the evidence strongly suggests that Jesus was born in a warmer season, most likely in spring or early fall. The convergence of biblical, historical, and astronomical clues creates a compelling case for rethinking the traditional narrative. So, what's the real month of Jesus' birth? While we may never know for certain, the evidence points to a time frame between March and October, with spring and early fall being the most plausible. From shepherds in the fields to celestial events in the Jewish calendar, each clue builds a case for rethinking the Nativity story. What do you think? Does this evidence change how you view Christmas and its traditions? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more fascinating explorations of biblical history.